It is that time of the year again. We're at episode 1 of the college football preview, and we're breaking down the conferences. And of course, we're going to start off with, well, it's the letter A, so you got to start off with it. The ACC, an interesting conference this year, and I can't wait to break it down with Joe Tansey, who's joining us right now as well, one half of the College Football Preview podcast, and also on YouTube as well at Fox Sports The Gambler. You can follow Joe at JTansey90. My name is John Jansen. You can follow me at JJansen34. We'll be with you all college football season, including these previews, and we're starting off with the ACC. I think it's easy, Joe, to start off with the ACC at the top because there are two very clear teams, I think, at this conference that are probably going to dominate the conversation here.
I will say, John, it's July 26th. I got a sign this morning, turned on the car, first song that came on, Dog Days Are Over.
Oh, that's great.
Classic.
I thought it was going to be like House Party or that Big and Rich song, I'm coming to your city. I thought it was going to be one of those.
No, it was just a sign from the college football gods that it's time to talk about college football.
It is. And do you know every year, like we get that there's a song that would be played, like either ESPN or CBS will pick a song and it'll be their theme throughout the year. I'm already tired of the Big Ten Friday night one for the Fall Out Boy song. I'm already tired.
Oh, I've already said, come October, I'm going to know every word to the Fall Out Boy song, and I'm going to be perfectly okay with it. I'm perfectly fine with knowing every
I don't know if I am.
I know every single theme, every little jingle, whatever played before.
Do you remember Imagine Dragons that one year? They were a couple of years, and
everybody got upset about that. Like, Fall Out Boy, like who cares?
I do like Fall Out Boy, but not that much.
I'm surprised they have staying power.
Yeah, I know, right? I didn't.
They have legitimate staying power.
Speaking of staying power, Joe, Clemson near the top again.
Look what you did there. You're in mid-season form.
Mid-season form, dude. I don't even need training
done.
camp. I don't even need a spring football practice, dude. I'm good to go. But Clemson plus 145, Florida State plus 150. Look, we can go through the rest of the ACC odds. North Carolina 10-1, Louisville 10-1, Miami 20-1, Pittsburgh 20-1, NC State 22-1, Duke 40-1, and I'll stop there because the rest stink. But
you're not taking as much as 80-1, are you?
No. But as much as I kind of like, we talked about this before we started, that the ACC is kind of sneaky good this year. But the problem is it's really top heavy with the top two teams in Clemson and Florida State. Which one are you liking more so far?
I mean, you got to like the staying power with Clemson, right? Like, I feel like I've used the exact same template for Clemson for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They're going to be awesome on defense. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Yes, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Is going to make you feel really old, but you're going to be really impressed by him.
He's good.
He's phenomenal.
Is he better than his dad at this point in his career?
His dad played
that was great.
He played at really low levels. I think he played A&M.
Yeah, he didn't play high level college football, and not only high level, like the best defensive player in college football type.
Right, and
this is incredible what he's doing.
It's weird because Marvin Harrison Jr. too is.
I know. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Look, there is no new book on Clemson. It's just, can their quarterback be good? And that's Cade Klubnik. And we were calling for him at the start of last year. We did this preview last year, and we thought the same exact thing.
Every week was DJU or Cade.
Yeah.
It was every single one.
And so we finally have the answer here. It's Cade Klubnik. Can the skill position players end up being T. Higgins, Amari Rodgers level type? Because I think that was the last really good group of wideouts they had. And then look, we know
it's never going to be DeAndre Hopkins level or Sammy Watkins level. They've been. It's kind of weird because they had a lot of years where they were near the top wide receiver. Even Hunter Renfrow, you can throw into that conversation, and they have not had that the past couple seasons, and they won't this year. They won't this year.
And that's the thing with Clemson. What you're going to get. They're going to be consistent. They're going to win 8 to 10 games, depending. And you trend higher on that. Defensively, they're going to be very good. And just because they have the better talent in the ACC, that's going to show more than the other conferences. I mean, in the SEC, maybe even in the Big Ten in some capacities, like scheme and talent, or individual talent or certain units may end up winning you games, but not in the ACC. The ACC has been fairly straightforward for a while. This is Clemson's conference. FSU, we want FSU to be good, like, right? Because as much as we do the thing with Nebraska all the time, oh, we want Nebraska to be back. We want Texas to be back. We want to, live in 15 to 20 years ago when these were the established powers of college football. We want Florida State to be back. We want them to be back. And Norvell has quietly done a decent job there. I'm not saying he gets an A++ because he's had some really, really bad losses, Jacksonville State being the most notable of them.
Yep.
But they're still making progress. And I think that's in a college.
And look, it's a senior quarterback too, like with Jordan Travis. That does have to be something of note here because, we've seen it. Max Duggan experience. It's experienced quarterbacks do kind of have a leg up. And, while I can expect to jump up with Cade, I expect in his sophomore year. Still, I mean, the fact that Jordan Travis has been around this long and is a senior, like that is something that is a big plus for Florida State, I think.
And like who else is going to contend? Like realistically going to contend in the ACC? Like it to me,
it's just those two to me.
Yeah, and they play in September, so that's the weird part of all of this is. You have Clemson and Florida State 1 and 2, and usually you have to wait until October, November, late in the season for these big matchups to happen. Now we'll find out pretty much early on who the top dog in the ACC is, whether it be Florida State, whether it be Clemson. It's a late September game. I like that. I like having stakes high early in the season and not a schedule like Michigan. Yeah, we'll get to them in the Big Ten, but. Oh, buddy, what a week!
Michigan's got a tough opener.
Weak schedule.
So I think for me, I think Florida State on paper might be better right now. As it stands, because Florida State has the better offense, you would say, because Jordan Travis a little bit more explosive. They're returning their top receiver, they're returning Trey Benson, their top running back, and they're returning a lot of defensive talent. And they were a great defense last year, but I can't get past the potential ceiling that Clemson has. Right. And that, to me, comes down to the defensive side. Because last year, Clemson and Florida State's defense was about the same. Florida State gave up 20.6 points per game. Clemson gave up 20.9. But what always made Clemson great is they had defenses that were in the 14, 13 points per game. This defense, to me, this year, this is that. Like, this is that type of dominant defense that if they get that and Cade improves to where their 33-point per game offense goes up to 36, 37, because also remember, they're getting Garrett Riley. So their offense is going to be opened up a little bit more. We know the air raid offense is able to develop receivers pretty quickly. We've seen that with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma and USC, and Garrett Riley, obviously brother of Lincoln, also runs the air raid offense and produced some really good wide receivers at TCU. So I think the potential upside to me is too hard to ignore with Clemson. And there's a difference between, a Penn State team having upside and a Clemson team because Dabo has consistently gotten Clemson to reach their peak, to reach their upside. So I think Dabo's a good enough coach. Obviously, he can get them to that point. So
that's a compliment to Penn State that you lump them in with Clemson.
It is. I mean, Penn State's really talented. They are though.
Raise them up a little bit there.
But that's always the difference. Is
right?
Penn State has even the second-year quarterback that's highly touted. Cade Klubnik was the number 1 quarterback in his draft class. All of the parallels are the same. It's just that I know Dabo going into his 16th year has won championships, has been to a bunch of college football playoffs, and has been able to consistently hit that ceiling that his team has. And I think it is a very high ceiling for Clemson. Look, I guess if you want to simply narrow this down, it comes down to Cade Klubnik. But I think last year he wasn't going to be the highly touted court, and he was fine. He was pedestrian, but there could be a significant step forward for him this season. I think the offense has to do with it as well.
They were being they were being too polite to Uyunglele.
They definitely.
They were being way too polite. They're like, "This is our guy. He's."
Well, that's the thing you could tell, right? Is that Cade was doing all the small stuff right. It's just that I don't think everything was coming as natural to him.
There wasn't
as quickly.
There wasn't a ruthlessness with the coaching staff as you could see in different places. I love Dabo. I want to get that. I love Dabo Swinney. I think he is perfect for college football. If he was in the NFL,
He would not work in the NFL.
He would not
No
work
way.
in the NFL. He'd be a gimmicky guy, and everybody would see through it. And
Well, he's like he runs because NFL. When you're a coach, you have to know X's and O's. Not saying Dabo doesn't, but Dabo is the CEO. He has a great coaching staff around him. He recruits very well. He has everything in place, and also runs the program. To an
my thing is,
good degree.
The CEO's performance at Clemson dropped last year. And not only did he lose Brent Venables, but he lost Tony Elliott, his offensive coordinator, to Virginia. I think the CEO slipped up in his decision making and trying to promote from within.
100%.
So now I think the Garrett Riley decision is a correction on that, and I think you'll see Clemson be more explosive. But I think Dabo, I don't think he'll admit it in person or anywhere to the media, but maybe internally he'll admit that he just got that decision wrong. They stuck with their guys and were a little too loyal, and it bit them.
It did. And basically they went after the top coordinator in all of college football.
Which is what you should do if you're Clemson.
Absolutely.
If you think you're a top 5 program, you get top 5 coaches. You don't settle from within, no matter how good these guys are. That's just how college football works. Like, these guys can work their way up and find other spots. There's 35 now Division I college football teams. Like, there's enough. But like I see Clemson and I see Old Reliable here, and until we get a instance where in the SEC and the Big Ten where Georgia has beaten and eclipsed Alabama, Michigan has beaten and gotten to beaten Ohio State and gotten there. Nobody has held Clemson down yet. Yeah, Clemson's lost some games, but they haven't.
I know it was a down year and they were 11-3.
Right, exactly. They haven't been dethroned yet in the ACC. I think we're all waiting for Florida State to. I think there's some inkling or some hope that maybe North Carolina can do it because of Drake May. But until Clemson is
until North Carolina's defense gets better. I mean, dude, Clemson. North Carolina was great last year, and they lost that game 39-10 in the ACC title game. I mean, like, they got
it speaks to where Clemson is, and it comes down in college football. Sometimes it comes down to like what you know in terms of experience in the moment. Like, it could just be that where Clemson, they are supposed to play in these games. North Carolina, they're not. That's just how college football works. I love it. It's an insane sport, but like, when you get to championship season, at least in the ACC, because this has been the case in the ACC, Clemson has been there, done that, and nobody else has. And maybe the shift away from divisions helps that. Maybe we don't have like a 7-8 win team stumbling out of the coast. As much as I love college football chaos, like, we need the second best team in the ACC to play Clemson or Florida State or whoever it is.
Yeah, and look, we're likely going to get that with Clemson and Florida State. So I even if want to take this just a quick step further before we get to the rest of the ACC here, because these two teams are also, to me, college football playoff contenders, like to at least get in. I'm not saying win a championship or anything.
Not yet.
But to at least get in.
Not yet.
Not yet for FSU? No. Not feeling that. Because you know what surprised me? They have shorter odds to make the playoffs than Clemson. They're at plus 280 to make the playoff on DraftKings. Clemson's plus 320. I love that plus 320 for Clemson.
Yes.
See, they're going to be nearly undefeated. Probably maybe one loss. I don't know where that one loss is going to come.
So here's the thing with these two teams, and it comes down to schedule. It really does. So they play each other in September.
Clemson has a favorable schedule, man.
Clemson's got to play Notre Dame, North Carolina, and South Carolina. South Carolina is not going to be a.
South Carolina is one of the toughest because it's the end of the season. You're at South Carolina. That's tough. And Duke's a bit of a challenge to start. So I don't want to dismiss that game so easily, but you get Notre Dame at home.
I would dismiss that Duke game immediately.
Even though that's fair.
We just talked about Dabo, the CEO, and
they're going to dismantle Duke.
They are going to come out and make a statement. I guarantee you.
They get Florida State at home. They get Notre Dame at home. They get North Carolina at home. Their toughest road game is essentially South Carolina. NC State is coming off of a bye, and they're at NC State, and then Miami and Syracuse are the other road games. So their schedule to me, look, right off the bat with Florida State, it's LSU. And that immediately could knock them out of the playoffs if they lose that game.
I think you could Florida State could be out of the playoff by September.
They could be. They could have 2 losses by the end of September.
And that's the thing is, yes, the rest of their schedule, easy. I mean, who's beating FSU and on top of that, they play 3 straight home games in October after Clemson.
Yeah.
They get Miami at home.
And then the 2 road games are Wake Forest and Pitt, which we'll get to Pitt, but
FSU seems like a bye later.
Yeah, I like that.
Like I look at this
because the win total right now is 10.5. If you could find an in-season win total after the first month, that you might be right there.
My best bet on the ACC is not going to be a win total. It's actually going to be a hold on Florida. I'm getting ahead of myself, but hold on Florida State.
Yeah,
because if you think Florida State is going to be at least above average, and you think they are the second best team in the ACC, you'll probably get better odds. Actually, you will get better odds if they lose to LSU, they lose to Clemson, or they lose to both. Because what did we do with Clemson last year? We wrote Clemson off immediately.
And they ended up right. They quietly ended up having a very good year.
Right. So if you look 10.5 is too high for me for Florida State because they could win one of those 2 games, but then what happens with the pressure?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say they'll lose to Wake or Pitt, but what happens if they're a heavy favorite against Miami or a heavy favorite against Florida late in the season? There are enough speed bumps. So I guess this is me roundabout saying I'm taking FSU under 10.5 too, because the logic kind of plays out where I would love to bet them
too high of expectations. And as much as they're returning, everybody loves returning production, and I love that as well. But does that mean production's going to be the same? Are they going to get better production this season than they did last year? I can see them taking, albeit small steps back. Last year was very good. That was a huge step forward for them under Mike Norvell, and I think there's a better chance of it getting slightly worse than slightly better.
I don't think they beat LSU and Clemson.
No, they won't do that.
I think
if they do, that's wild. I mean, they're
right. If they do
that, we're talking about them as one of the best teams in college football.
Right. The hype train just it leaves the station and it's going from Tallahassee.
It's already
to
across
New York
the
in
country.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
That's how fast the hype train's going if FSU beats LSU and Clemson. Because we do this thing with Texas. We've done it with Oklahoma. You named it the step. I mean, we did it with Miami. How many times have we done it with Miami?
Yeah, we've done it
Miami's
so
just
many times.
Completely just falling flat in their face. Florida State, because they're a national brand, because they're back on the up and up. If they win, if they beat LSU, we're going to start to hear it. But then if they beat LSU and Clemson, which I don't think is going to happen, that Elon Musk better wish for a train that moves that fast. Jeez, that's going to be it's going to be in hyperspeed.
It will be. Let's talk about the rest of the ACC because it's a surprisingly good conference, right? Would you agree that this feels like one of the stronger years in recent years from the ACC because you have the 2 teams that could be, potentially in the playoffs. Obviously, it's a clear step down once you get to the rest of the ACC, but still very good. You have Pitt, North Carolina, Miami, NC State, Louisville, and Duke. A lot of returning quarterbacks, some changing quarterbacks. Devin Leary gone. Sam Hartman gone. We'll also talk about Notre Dame because Notre Dame's essentially a part of the ACC.
They're ACC adjacent.
Right, exactly. So I think we ACC plus Notre Dame preview here. But Drake May is back. Garrett Schrader's back at Syracuse. Riley Leonard, everybody's hyping up at Duke. Tyler Van Dyke is back at Miami. Obviously, you have Jordan Travis back, Cade Klubnik. But even within the ACC, Phil Jerkovic is moving to Pittsburgh now from Boston College. He reunites with his former offensive coordinator at Boston College. What's an ACC team outside of Clemson and Florida State that you have your eye on?
I'm required by law to hype up Brennan Armstrong.
And I'm required by law to agree.
This might be the number one Brennan Armstrong podcast that exists. Not even in the Northeast. This might be just the number one Brennan Armstrong
not
podcast.
Just that. I'm a pro Dave Doran guy. I'm a big Dave Doran guy.
So I don't know why NC State has such a soft spot in my heart in football. Like maybe because when I was like growing up, like Chuck Amato, like can
they don't
he
have
be...
a soft spot for me. That's that.
Oh, I know.
I can't.
Well,
I can't back up that.
Well, you have a reason. But like growing up, and this is like really dating myself, but like, is Chuck Amato going to beat Bobby Bowden? You know, that was like the biggest thing for like a decade in the ACC, and he could never do it. And then like it was like, oh, can he do it this year? No, I think he did like once. Like NC State was never like at that level, but like, Devin Leary's a better quarterback. But I think the change of scenery. I mean, what happened at the end of the year at Virginia, obviously horrific, and there's not really a way to kind of recover from that because there's really no precedent for that. But Brennan Armstrong at NC State's very, very fascinating because NC State's always that middle tier team in the ACC. That I mean, it's a soft underbelly in the ACC this year, and I think you're being too nice. I really do. I don't think it's as good as because like what is in terms of a middle of a conference. How does the ACC stack up against the SEC? It doesn't. Against the Big Ten, it definitely doesn't. If you did like an ACC Big 12 challenge, the Big 12 might win. And I have a soft spot in my heart for the Pac-12. So like, I could say
nothing like some late night Pac-12.
So like, if you were to power rank the soft underbelly of these conferences, ACC's third at best. At best, there's a lot of entertaining games that will happen. There's a lot of chaos that will happen because even though the Coastal Division doesn't exist anymore, those teams still do.
There's just a lot of interesting teams and quarterbacks and teams that surprised last year and teams that could surprise.
Interesting is better than good.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like Drake May, can he win the Heisman? Can he put up astronomical numbers? Sure, but he also lost his offensive coordinator.
Can Duke's defense get better? And they lost their two top wide receivers, by the way. When that happened to Sam Howell, he regressed. And I mean, Sam Howell, not the same type of hype, but Sam Howell was looked at as a potential first-round pick in the NFL, and then he lost his two top receivers, and he wasn't the same. So, like, yeah, there's a concern here for me that North Carolina, and all the pressure's on him. North Carolina had running backs when Sam Howell was there. They had, who was it? Michael Carter, and I'm forgetting the other guy.
Javonte
Williams. They had Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. They lose those guys. And, they were at 5 yards per carry the 2 seasons prior to Drake May. Drake May comes in there. They're into the 4s in yards per carry. So their offense is all Drake May. And that is concerning when you lose your two top receivers.
There are two big games involving ACC teams in week one. One is LSU, Florida State. And we already talked a little bit about the Florida State angle of that. The other one's North Carolina, South Carolina. Game day is going to be there. It's a huge game.
Charlotte, too. Bank of America. It's going to be so much fun.
All of the preseason hype is on Drake May. He has to deliver. Because if he doesn't, he could fade into just the middle of the ACC where, I mean, does Louisville improve just because of the first-year coach bump? Does NC State just kind of do their thing? What happens at Wake because Sam Hartman's not there anymore? Like, there's so many questions across the ACC where I can't say.
Well, my question, if you want to get into that real quick.
Go.
Because your team is NC State. I'm keeping my eye on Miami. I'm keeping my eye on that.
You have to.
They're returning a lot of production. Mario Cristobal, I think because year one went so poorly. What is it? Didn't Jimbo have a bad year at Texas A&M early, and then he kept recruiting well? Obviously Texas A&M hasn't gotten to the point where they want to get to, but they still ended up winning a bunch of games. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami goes on to win 8-9 games. They're competing for maybe a spot in the ACC title game. They will be one of the teams that could get close. I just think they have enough talent on defense. Mario Cristobal, great coach. They moved around the coaching staff a little bit so their offense could get better, which could help Tyler Van Dyke, who had a down year. But they're returning their top running back. They're returning almost their entire receiving group other than Will Mallory, who's gone, and they're returning their top 3 most productive defensive players. So like they have 10 starters back on defense, 9 on offense. It just, there's enough talent there and a good enough coach that, I can see a significant improvement from year 1 to year 2.
John,
is that good enough to be anywhere close to Florida State, Clemson? I don't think so. But is it enough to leapfrog North Carolina and Pittsburgh, who I think are the other, teams in that tier that I would consider the top teams? Yeah, I think they absolutely could.
John, I need you to do something we're going to do a collaborative exercise here.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, let's put our U's up.
No, I'm not.
Let's put our. Come on, John. Come on, John.
I'm not doing that.
Put your
I'm only a horns down.
Come
I have to hold my line.
You can do it. There you go.
You. But we're more of a
keep it up. I'm not done.
No. We're more of a horns down podcast.
All right. Well, I'll keep my you up here, okay? Because you're no fun. No. Over 7.5 wins at plus 120 at DraftKings.
Oh,
I'm going with the U.
Wow, at plus 120, you see
plus
that?
Plus 120.
Oh man.
Okay, let's talk about Miami. Now you don't want to have any fun with me.
I like that bet, Joe.
So here's the thing with Miami. I just said nobody's really good outside of Clemson and Florida State. Somebody has to be third best in the ACC. Now, if you include Notre Dame is in that group. But Miami's got A&M at home. They've got Clemson at home. And they have to visit FSU, which, I don't know, like, is that really a true, like, road game? It can be, but, like, you're still playing in Florida. So it's not like it's there's a massive kind of home field advantage there. You look at the rest of their schedule, like you can easily find 8 wins. You get Bethune-Cookman, you get Temple. Actually, does that count? Does the FCS win count?
Unbelievable. They're going to be in at Temple. They're going to be in Lincoln Financial Field.
But like, look at this: Miami, Ohio, win. Temple, win. Georgia Tech, that's a win. They're going to beat Virginia.
Virginia's
that's 4.
a win. Yeah.
They're probably going to beat BC and Louisville. That's 6. So then, they have more talent than NC State. They could beat North Carolina. Like, there's a very easy path to 8 wins. And then they can even kind of exceed expectations with a win over A&M at home, with a win over Clemson at home, or a win over Florida State. They go 1-2 in those 3 games, and you have a really good path.
Yeah, you see 6 wins here pretty easily.
Right.
And, it's just you can find 2 wins. NC State they can beat. As much as I love NC State, they can find a way to beat NC State. North Carolina, as you just said, the pressure is going to be on. Who knows what they're going to be like? And you know what? Texas A&M is likely going to win that game. But what happens if Texas A&M's offense doesn't show up? And Texas A&M has the same quarterback problem and offensive problem they've had for years. That could end up maybe being an upset for Miami. So yeah, I look. I think that's a good bet. I think you can find 2 wins on that schedule somewhere outside of those easy 6. So yeah. Oh, you're keeping the U up. I can't stand you.
Over 7.5. Who does our graphic? Sean?
Is that going to be a thumbnail?
Yeah, put it right here. Thumbnail. Miami over 7.5.
So since that's your bet, I'll go over
the U, John.
I'll go over my 2. I agree with you on NC State. Dave Doran in the past 5 years only has 1 season where he's won less than 8 games. That was a 4-8 season in 2019. Other than that, 9 wins in 18, 8 wins in 20. In 21, they had 9 wins, and last year, 8 wins. What always makes them impressive, because, Joe, last year, Devin Leary didn't start every game. Remember, Ben Finley came in and won some games because their defense is so good. They still have a great defensive line. They're still going to have one of the top defenses in the ACC. The last 2 years, they've held opponents to under 20 points per game. And with the potential that Brennan Armstrong has in this offense.
He actually has an offense.
Right. I think stability and just having some type of structure in offense, I think that's going to help Brennan Armstrong immensely. I think NC State is another, 7-8 win team. The win total is 6.5, and I think they easily get over that.
Well, look at their non-con. They have to play. They play
Connecticut.
UConn. Marshall's on there.
Marshall is on there. Yeah.
So there's 2 wins you're expected to have there.
Connecticut, VMI, Virginia, Marshall.
They have
Wake Forest. They're going to beat too. I don't like Wake Forest this year.
Like, they have both Virginia teams on there. Who we assume are going to just be dog trash. So
thank you for censoring that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, no problem. Like, they can beat Duke. Like, it's very. My whole approach with win totals is I need to have a path. Forget the personnel, like the 11.
Oh, you need a path to it.
I want a path. I want a veteran quarterback, and I want a coach I can trust. I can get all that with NC State.
NC State has it all. They check off all. But that's what I trust there. Because they're losing a lot of defensive talent. But that's the thing. Dave Doran has replaced defensive lineman after defensive lineman at NC State. It's right. It's consistency. They're a really well-run program that, Dave Doran hasn't had maybe the leap forward everybody wants him to take, and they thought they were going to take with Leary.
NC State doesn't take leap forwards. NC State is bound to win 8 games a year and play in the Meineke Car Care Bowl the day after Christmas.
But I would love that consistency out of my college football team.
Right, exactly.
I don't know about you. I would love that. Not every team's going to be Clemson. Not every team's going to make it to a playoff.
90% of fan bases take that and run with it every year.
Absolutely. Give me bowl games. Give me, at least compete in the ACC. Give me a good wins where you're maybe beating Clemson one year, beat North Carolina every once in a while, right, like they have. I'd love that. That's perfect.
NC State is the perfect, just middle of the pack team.
Yep.
That exceeds expectations every once in a while, but it's like a warm blanket. NC State will be in a bowl. Probably play like South Carolina and like the Mayo Bowl or the Meineke Car Care Bowl, whatever it is, and whatever that game is in Charlotte now. They'll play it like 2 days after Christmas. They'll pack the stands, and everybody will be like, Dave Doran won 9 games again.
I know, exactly. 8-5, 9-4, Dave Doran. I mean, it's every single year with this guy.
And then someone will leak him to a coaching job that
he never will.
Doesn't deserve. No,
and he'll stay there.
No, he needs to be there for the rest of his life.
And also, I'm going Clemson over 9.5. If their win total is going to be under double digits, I'm taking the over. They're going to win double digits.
It's Clemson. So I think
in the last 5 years, Dabo Swinney has not gone under double-digit wins. He's had 10 or more years in the last 5.
See, this is bad because you and I have done this is our first preview we've done, and now we've convinced each other on bets because now I'm on NC State, I'm on Clemson, I'm on FSU's under.
I'm on Miami. I love the Miami. I didn't know that was plus 122.
Let's do this. Let's do this, John. Come on. You can do it. Let's close it out. Our favorite bet in the ACC, over 7.5 wins. There you go.
It's all about the U, baby.
See,
all about
you have to be a little bit of a showman sometimes.
All right. So is that it? You want to wrap that up? Any thoughts on like Syracuse or? I mean, we didn't talk about Pitt too much. Pitt has Phil Jerkovic.
We don't need to talk about Pitt too much.
They've lost a lot. Now the thing is with Narduzzi is
he's just going to tell us to run the ball like it's 50 years
ago. I know. You want to know my favorite thing is?
I don't need to talk about Pat Narduzzi.
They lost a lot of players defensively, and they haven't had like the best recruiting classes. And all Narduzzi is going to do is still make them like a fairly decent team.
Pat Narduzzi is going to win 7 games.
Yep,
he's going to tell you to get off his lawn in the process.
Yep. Oh yeah, he said put a lid on NIL deals, right. So he's already off to a great start.
And we're just going to chuckle, and be like, "Oh, that's Uncle Pat over there. Just let him go. He's being a little, living in the 70s again."
All right. I love it. Now we're talking about too much Pat Narduzzi. Let's move on. That is it for the ACC preview. We're going to have all major conference previews, maybe a group of 5 preview as well. Notre Dame. We forgot to do Notre Dame.
There will be a group of 5 preview.
Are we going to do a Notre Dame? Any quick thoughts on Notre Dame?
Sam Hartman, awesome. Schedule.
Love it.
Kind of brutal.
Yeah.
Marcus Freeman, a hot seat question mark?
Oh, absolutely. No, not a question mark. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
I think that's kind of it's a big deal. I mean, they got to play Clemson, they got to play USC, they've got to play Ohio State. I mean, could be a playoff team if they're really good, but there's a lot of pressure on Marcus Freeman.
I mean, are they even good enough that you can say at NC State is like an easy game for them, or that's going to be a close, tough game?
When is it?
It's in early September 9th.
Then
no, okay.
Notre Dame has to prove it to me. And I don't think that's a wrong criticism. Just prove it.
No, the good thing is Sam Hartman's there, but it's Sam Hartman. And look, veteran quarterback. You're bringing back your top running back. But still, there's a lot to prove there for Notre Dame, especially
new OC.
That offense. New OC, yeah. A lot of stuff to prove. All right, that is it for the ACC preview. We're going to have more previews on our YouTube channel, Fox Sports The Gambler, also foxphlgambler.com. Go to the podcast tab, College Football Preview. You can follow Joe at JTansey90. My name is John Jansen. Follow me at JJansen34. Stay tuned for more college football previews right here on the College Football Preview podcast.